Alright, to update everyone on the plans and the changes, these were Danny's ideas, very good ideas. Moving the stairs up this way and doing this here to see about trash cans. This one here, I will show you how that worked out. Because that land comes down so low anyway at that point, by the time you're reaching this alley here, this particular way of building these walls doesn't offer much screening. That's not to say, though, that a person can't just pour these walls level, and probably maybe contractors would prefer that. If you brought this up, mine is about 45 inches tall, my trash can. So if you brought that wall up to maybe where it was 48 inches high, that would offer the screening. And I've shown these walls all along as this 8-inch concrete walls. If you have a contractor that prefers, you can use any number of these landscaping block alternatives like Allen block and the like. Also, I want to mention this water that you're having out here. Perhaps that is also run here, because you can actually have a little sink there that empties to regular, it could empty to the street, as it were. Particularly with its use as an art studio, water would be nice to have up there. Also, you can, not shown, but it probably should be just left this way, if you want to leave this existing door and closet door in place, either block them off permanently or create a little lawn closet inside, that can be done. Similarly, that window can be left where it is, like that. And this would probably be less expensive. They're not having to have this wood. They're probably going to have some of this wood milled regardless for some of these changes. Although you are taking out some over on the alley side. So someone will have to figure that out. I kind of like leaving it in place here. Looks historic and is probably less expensive than taking it out. So regardless of what you do, whether you put these out here, keep this wall high, what you do there, it is nice that the trash cans, because of moving those stairs, the trash cans can fit here. If you leave those doors in place, then you would just wall them off. But for the rest of the way this all worked out, I'll try to get through this quicker than I've been so far. I had begun with that landing lower like this, 8 inches lower, one riser lower, but this is an outline of, this is a typical 6'8" at the center and 30 inches wide. This is to access that second place that's up 16 inches, up 2 risers. So I brought the landing up so that I could bring that second stair, one less tread and riser, and that gave us this here. And this is kind of just, this will get either the Fleetwood or the pickup truck under this landing. This is a game of inches though, so this has to be put together as diagrammed. I rechecked the dimensions of that particular lift, and these are reflective of that. All of this stuff is reflective of that. Upstairs, when you have that second loft, this piece comes on beyond and connects to 2 spaces. It can be a closet or anything else for that matter. So this is kind of what I had ended up with as I began to get the actual construction drawings together. Here's your passage up there. It's 2'8" wide by 6'8" high. Notice that the stairs though can't come, this door has to swing open, so those stairs have to stop at the end of that door, about 2'7" or so. And these were just how I finished developing that, whether you do that or not. Actually, the final one I widened that. The final construction drawings as they're now shown, or as currently developed, this is wider. This is more like 36 or 38 inches wide, where you still can't fall off the edge of this stair, but it gives you the widest possible access up there while not occupying this whole thing with stair tread or otherwise. Down here you can see how close it is with this Fleetwood. This is the column here, this 4-inch column is right here. and the Fleetwood is right here. Colorado fits under there. As I said, I modeled them both and either will fit under. But when they install this lift, it ought to be installed to the greatest extent possible that way. I think the pump or jack or whatever is on this side, according to their diagram. So I don't know whether that can be reversed. But that'll have to be accounted for. I would have this Fleetwood in there before I installed this thing here. Because yeah, I pulled that forward some because the garage door actually closes on the inside of this, so there's just, as I said, a game of inches. Going this way, I endeavored to get this second floor room to come out this way as far as I could. This is 80 inches here, but this is that main beam, beam B. That's going to have to stop before the stairs. Finally, this was the final move I made on this, a pretty big change from those earlier plans, from the 1105 plans. This is beam B here, and this is beam C set below those joists. In the final permutation, because you're going to have to build wall up here and so forth, I lifted that up where it's a flush beam. There will be one more update of the plans before they go to a permit, and one of the things I will add to that is that this window can just stay there, and we can just ignore the fact that it doesn't look that great being this close to that. It was like that before, and this is how it works out on the plan. So I probably would just leave those in, make a note that they've already been closed off, and you end up with this as elevation C or D or whatever it is on the south. This is already a nice rigid frame here. Secondly, I want to see, there might be a way that I'm assuming that these are two 2x8s, and I'm assuming they're bearing on this 4.5 or 5.5 inch member over here. If someone wants to tell me what that is from the outside of this 2x4 here to the outside of whatever I can't see over here is, I can specify a connector for this those new 14-inch LVLs that are coming over. Either way, that column needs cut for 14-inch depth. And secondly, with regard to that second floor, this whole piece here, I don't know if it makes sense for a person to cut those off here and there wherever they need to be cut, and lift that whole platform. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would be allowable under the code. So I'll put that in as an option. Finally, you may have noticed on the last plans I changed these from 24 inches on center to about 24 inches on center. They're actually about 28 inches on center. I'm not going to put that on the construction drawings because they'll make a fuss. But I did check this with the sizing program, and it still works that way. And lastly, if a person wants to, if it makes more sense, instead of having to glue and nail those sister joists to these ones, and these are going to be sagged, they're going to be needed to be lifted in order to get that to be accommodated. Instead of doing that, you can just put one between each one, with a hanger on this end and bearing on the other end at beam A. But then you would just have to still, presumably he'll still be having to, I don't know what you do to the floor when you start to do all of this. So I wanted to mention that, whether, maybe that whole floor ends up needing replaced during this construction. But obviously many different ways to go on how that's put together. I think that's about it for this review. Hopefully that's conclude everything with regard to this garage and the rest, but feel free to provide any additional thoughts. including your decisions on whether to leave those doors in place, those existing doors in place, this window in place, and the question with regard to running that water inside the building. I think that's it. Thanks very much. Sorry so long.